Meher Baba, 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 Meher Baba.
Jai Meher Baba, everyone. So, we are reading today chapter 2 from the book Mehera, titled Childhood. Subtitle Forests, Jungles, and Government Bungalows, 1907 to 1915. In 1907, when Baba was 13 years old and attending St. Vincent's High School in Pune, Mehra was born in Sukkur, now in Pakistan, the younger daughter of Jahangir and Daulat Mai Irani, both of whom were from Zoroastrian families settled in Pune. In January 1914, when Mehra was 6 years old, Baba Jan kissed Baba on the forehead and he experienced infinite bliss. My stories are not about spiritual matters. Baba told me that he has given everything in his books. What I can tell you about is our life with Baba, what happened when we were with him. It is a very long story. I was born in Sukkur, a city now in Pakistan, then in northwestern British India. Both my parents' families were from Pune, and my father had a high post as a senior forest officer in the Indian Forestry Service. We lived in Sukkur for 4 years, after which we were transferred to other places, my father's last posting being to Junagadh in Gujarat. By we, I mean my father, my mother, and my sister Piroja, whom Baba later renamed Freni, who was 5 years older than I. My parents had a son too, but he had died at a very young age before I was born. In Sukkar, we had all the conveniences of a very comfortable government bungalow with many servants, a cook, bearers, grooms, and a sweeper, and also a washerman, all staying in our compound. I remember too that we had our own carriage, a two-horse Victoria. As we go along, I'll just show some pictures. This is the picture of Mehra's parents just after their wedding, Daulat Mai and Jahangir Irani. Those were such happy days. My sister and I were very much loved by our parents, and especially by my father, who enjoyed playing with us and spoiling us and seeing us happy. He was a fine looking man, very tall and a broad chest and a good posture. And his nature was very fine too. So big hearted and loving was he, and full of energy and playfulness. I cannot remember him being tired. He was fond of jokes and games, and he also loved music. While he was gentle and soft hearted, he was also very brave. My father truly did not know the meaning of fear because he loved people and he had sorry because he loved people. We had many friends and relatives visiting us from Pune and from other places too. My father used to take our guests sightseeing around Sukkar. Sometimes we visited a Hindu temple on an island in the river. We would cross the river in a small boat, and I remember that there were monkeys and peacocks roaming around the island. When we came to the temple, we took off our shoes and walked barefoot in a carpeted room full of pictures of holy men. Outside the temple, there were marble steps leading down into the river where we would watch fish being fed. One fish had a gold nose ring, and that sight fascinated us children. Then I remember going to a mosque where the mullahs would light incense sticks and offer prayers and then bring out this silken box. What do you think was inside this box? Another box. And inside that, another box. And finally, in the innermost box was a hair of the Prophet Muhammad. As you can see in Baba's room at Meherazad, we have his beautiful hair preserved in plexiglass. But in those days, there was no such thing, and this was their way of keeping it airtight. Sometimes, too, our guests were taken to sample toddy, a light, refreshing drink made fresh from the toddy palm, or taken for a picnic. Or we would go to a lovely lake in a park very close to our house. Our bungalow was on a hill, and the park was at the foot of this hill. Part of my father's work was to inspect the forest in his area, and when he went on tour, we often went too. Sometimes, even when we were transferred, we traveled by camel. There were no motor cars or tongas in Sukkar. It was all forest and sand, with very little rain. Instead of rainstorms, we had sandstorms. That caravan, that caravan was such a sight. Our tents and luggage went ahead by camel, and my father's staff went on horseback. My mother traveled on the back of a very quiet she camel, sitting in a saddle made from an easy chair, with a sunshade over her head. She took her books and knitting with her to pass the time as she rode along. My father had a big male camel, a very powerful, willful animal who could usually only be controlled by two able bodied Sindhis. But my father was so strong that he would seat me behind him on the camel, tell me to hold on tightly, take the reins, and off we would gallop. And I did not fall off. Camels run very smoothly. This camel was almost white, and I remember that he had some colored beads and a beautiful woven collar with tassels around his neck. I also remember standing in front of him when he opened his mouth. His tongue was huge, and so were his teeth, and I was both frightened and fascinated. Our servants pitched our tents ahead of us. Such lovely tents they were, all decorated with scallops and tassels, with windows and furniture and carpets, and a separate drawing room and bedrooms too. The kitchen tent was separate. My father was a good shot, and often he would shoot a deer for our cooks to prepare, and we always shared it with all those with us. We took a gramophone along too, and at night we listened to music. I still recall a number of incidents where, when we were camping in forests and jungles, that made a strong impression on me as a child. I cannot remember the name of the nearest town, but I especially remember one night when we were camped in a jungle. Every night, a blue enamel jug of milk was kept near my father's bed in the tent. Before going to sleep, he drank most of it and then put the jug back on his bedside table. This night we went this night we all went to sleep, but in the middle of the night, suddenly in the dark, something hit me on the head and then bumped my mother. My mother started to scream, and so did I. What a commotion! Everyone was running around in the dark, and we could not see what it is. We finally managed to light the lantern, and we saw a big wild cat running around inside the tent when the enamel jug stuck on his head. He must have been attracted into the tent by the smell of milk. He had put his whole head into the jug, lapped up the milk, then found he could not get it out. The poor cat was frantically rushing around with this jug on his head, and no one could hold on to him. My father rolled up the canvas door, and eventually the cat felt the fresh air and ran out with the jug still on his head. The next day, my father, feeling worried about the trapped cat, sent our servants out to look for him. Under a tree near a big stone, they found the battered jug. The cat had managed to bang the jug on this stone until it was free. So we were happy that the cat was safe. My mother was not fearless like my father, and at night, in a dark, thick forest, she would feel frightened. My father had a water spaniel, and when tigers caught his scent, they would circle around and around our tent, roaring. Naturally, my mother was terrified, but my father would tell her, "Just go to sleep. It's all right. Nothing will happen." My mother would reply, "But they are so near the tent. They might rip it open and come in." So my father would comfort her. He was never afraid of anything. At another village in a forest, my father heard of a thief who was stealing from the poor villagers. This thief was a tribal person who lived in the forest and who came out in the middle of the night to steal. One night, my father and one or two others waited in the little village, and somehow, in the middle of the night, my father got the thief. He was tied to a post on the veranda of the forest officer's tiny office until morning, and in the daylight, everyone saw how strong the thief was, how brave my father had been to tackle him, especially when the thief could have been carrying a knife. Our tent was not very far from the forest officer's little office where this man was tied, so I walked across to see my father. What fascinated me was not the thief, but a huge black scorpion that someone had hung on the same veranda by a piece of string tied around its tail. Its pincers were enormous, and so was the stinger in its tail. In its pincers, it held a fairly thick stick, which the scorpion turned back and forth. It was so strong it could hold the stick without dropping it. Often, when we were on tour, we would go together for an evening stroll in the surrounding forest. One night we were just returning to our tents when we heard a rustling in the dry leaves on the ground. My father knew at once that this was a big snake, and he told my mother to take us children and the dog back to the tent. My mother tried to stop him, but he did not listen to her. He did not even have a stick, but somehow he managed to kill the snake with a rock. Then he picked it up with part of a branch from a tree and brought it back to our tent, where we were waiting with hurricane lanterns for him. My mother was horrified. "Why have you brought that thing back here? Throw it away," she told him. But my father wanted to show us the snake's poison sacs. So, despite her protests, he opened its jaws and pointed them out to us. I was very young, but I remember that snake's fangs and poison sacs very clearly. And my mother looked into the snake's mouth, too, even though she did not want to. Like this, she gave my father loving companionship. I also remember that when he was on tour, my father wore leggings to protect his legs. Leggings are like long leather socks, which cover your legs from the shoe tops to your knees. They wrap around the legs and are fastened on by buckles. When my father came back to our tent feeling very hot after being in the forest, he would sit in a folding chair while I sat at his feet and unbuckled his leggings. I loved doing this, and I was very proud of myself. Finally, my father was transferred to the Junagadh district in Gujarat, and while we were staying there, my sister and I were sent to boarding school in Pune. I was 6 years old. My father had wanted us to be educated at home with tutors, but my mother was afraid that with their love for us, they would spoil us. So we were sent as weekly boarders to the convent of Jesus and Mary in Pune. On our school holidays, we came home. We had a nice two-story government house at Veraval. It was in a beautiful spot overlooking the ocean, with just a little open ground between it and the beach. My sister began piano lessons at school, which made my father very happy. I was very young and I began lessons later. Because my father was always on the move, we did not have a piano, but my parents had some European friends who had one, and on holidays we visited these friends. On the piano, my sister would play the tunes she had learned, and I remember that my father's favorite one was Home Sweet Home. Our neighbors in Veraval were a Christian family, and amongst other children, they had a daughter just 1 year older than I. I remember that in the evenings, the servants would bring some chairs outside, and these neighbors then joined us there for games and conversation. They had a son too, who was of college age. His name was David, but I could not pronounce this, and instead I called him Devil. We children loved to frolic on the beach, and Devil used to put me on his shoulders, then carry me out into the sea. What fun it was! My father was very sportive, and he wanted to teach my mother how to swim. She, however, was not very keen to learn, and they would squabble lovingly about it. Then, to please him, she would go in just to her waist. In the mornings, we children used to walk along the beach. In one direction, the beach gradually became rocky, and there we had to gingerly pick our way. One morning on our walk, we saw something moving amongst the rocks. We did not know what it was, but somehow we managed to catch it. Very excitedly, we carried it home and showed it to my mother. It's a crab, she told us. But what am I going to do with it? Take it down to the cook. The cook was very, very happy with our present. But why bring one? He said to us, bring me more. More? We asked. How can we catch more? So he showed us how to make a little lasso with string and how to catch the crab's pincers with the loop. Then pull it tight. Back to the beach we went. My sister and I managed to catch another 6 or 8 crabs, which we brought home in a pail with a little sand in it. We handed them over to the cook, and he made us a delicious crab curry. My father, when I was 6, gave us our own ponies and taught us to ride. And I remember when I was tiny being put on an elephant too. So as a child, I rode elephants, camels, and horses. I loved to ride my pony along the beach in front of our house. We always had servants with us to look after the horses, and one day I galloped away down the beach. I can still hear one of the servants shouting after me, stop, Mary, Baba, stop. He was a Muslim, and they called children Baba. While we were at Junagadh, my father also took us up a mountain not too far away from where Baba later sat in seclusion. It is called Girnar Mountain, and living there in caves are holy men with long hair and nails. We left very early in the morning, and my mother and some of our guests were carried up in sedan chairs. It was a steep climb, and we all, except my father, stopped at a rest house and temple on the way up. He climbed up much further and visited an even higher temple. He was always full of energy and never tired. Just a few final memories from my early childhood. I remember how my father saved his bearer's wife. They were a Muslim couple and very faithful to my father. She was a nice young woman, and one day when she was outside walking in some grass, a poisonous snake suddenly bit her. My father knew that he had to act very fast, and he also knew what he had to do. Quickly, he made some cuts across the snake's bite, tied a tourniquet of handkerchiefs around her leg to stop the poison circulating in the blood, and put some potassium permanganate on the wound. She was very fortunate that my father was there because she did live. And I remember too how my father saved some villagers. Around Junagadh, the forests are very deep. And once some people from a nearby jungle village came running to my father saying, "Oh, please, sir, there are some tigers who are stealing our calves and goats and sheep. This is a great loss to us. Please kill the tigers." So my father had a hide built in a tree and he waited there for the tigers to come. He was a sure shot and managed to shoot these man eating tigers and save the villagers and their animals from attack. So brave was he that once he even went into the forest alone after a wounded tiger found it in its lair and shot it so that it would not suffer. He shot these tigers not for the sport or for love of shooting, but to help the poor. These are some of my early childhood memories. My early years were very, very happy ones. We had an interesting, carefree life, full of love and adventures. Jai Baba. So, this was Mehra's childhood in her early years. This is a picture of young Mehra, sweet young Mehra out here, and this is with her parents and sister Piroja, who was later named by Baba as Freni. Would anyone like to share anything about Mehra before we read some more? Any little anecdote that you've read, any quote, any story, anything about any other women mandali? You can please raise your hand or unmute and share if you would wish to. Yes, Paula, please unmute.
Hi, sorry, it's early in the morning here, so Mara would not like that I'm in my pajamas. You probably know this, but Jahangir was, Jahangir was Mira's father's name, and it means conqueror of the world, which he was. Amazing, amazing, brave person her father was. Anyway, that's just
Have
what
you
I.
met Mehra, Paula?
Yes, yes.
Would love to hear something from you.
Well, I've told my stories before, but she she was so much like Baba in that she knew exactly what to do with each person. She knew exactly the perfect response or not response. She was for me, it was very natural to be with her, but also you could feel that, well, I felt how can I put it? The difference between her and me, because she was a pure soul in the universe, and I could feel that. And well, okay, I guess I'll tell this part. It's like, it was entombment day. I'll make it a short version, but it was on entombment day, and and there was a huge wind around Meher Hill. My son was 11 and he was with me, and he was scared. He didn't go up the hill, but it was RT and the women came for entombment day, and it was very crowded. It was in 1986, and someone, I was going to leave in 2 days, and so someone said, "Oh, you're leaving soon. You have to be in the tomb with the women." So I kind of, I don't, don't know how Baba does these things, but he just does it. He puts you where he wants you. And I never knew what he was doing and how he was doing it. But anyway, he put me where he wanted me and where I wanted to be. But I was in the Samadhi, and we were, like I said, it's early morning. Not early morning, but for me it is.
No worries. Do you want to grab some water?
Yeah. No, it's okay. So it was a time when we could put our heads on Baba's feet, each one at a time. And there was a basket of flowers, and I put one on Baba's feet, and I put flowers on Baba's feet for everybody I could think of. But this time I thought, Baba, this one's for me. But what was so special was Mehera was right next to me. She was sitting on the ledge right next to me. And that just meant everything to me. And then what happened was, when Mehera put her head on Baba's feet, thunder rolled. And I knew that, the thunder is the voice of God. And I heard it. It was like, it was amazing. And everything inside of me, I just caught my breath. Everything inside of me knew. And I remember thinking clearly, I'm in the presence of love bowing down to love itself. And I have no idea what that is, but I know that I'm in the presence of everything real, everything that's real. So that's kind of an abbreviated version of it. But anyway, that was Mehera, being in the presence of everything that exists that's real was Mehera. And somehow she made it easy too at different times, just really natural, the way she would pay attention to little things. It's like the way she, I was having a picture taken. I was the only one on the veranda left. And there was one person, and I said, would you take a picture of me with Meru? Because Meru and I was really attached to Meru too. And Mehera came out, and I said, oh, Mehera, do you want to be in the picture too? And she was like, yeah. So she came up and she just was playing with my scarf, and she was just saying, how beautiful, how beautiful. And the way it worked out, and I had a locket that I was wearing, and Mehera said, oh, is Baba's picture in the locket? And I said, yes, Mehera. And she said, oh, let me see. So I opened it, and she kissed it. So I have that locket, and I have her kiss for Baba. And then when I was leaving, Meru even just went, Meru was never by herself, but she was by herself on the veranda, and I was leaving. I was going the next morning. And so she just waved me as I left, so that was my, the last time that I was able to see her. But being with her was a treasure. It didn't matter how long or how short. It was, Baba gave you, he just gave you everything, So there's not words that can really describe it, being with Mehera. We talked about farmers, we talked about, things. I just like that. And the stories about her, Vesta Clinton has some wonderful, wonderful stories, because she was with Mehera in her early 20s, and she was with her a lot. and slept on the floor and was aware of Mehera during the night. And her stories are just, I hope she has a book someday or something, because her stories just put you there, which is what Vesta said too. She said, when we hear stories about Baba and Mehera, just put yourself in the story, because you're there. That's where we all belong. So anyway, that's a kind of a fractured version of at this time. It's not early morning, but it's
Great.
enough. Oh, and I wanted to say I have the book, but it's lovely to hear you read it. It's just it's wonderful. It's just wonderful to hear you read it out loud. So anyway, so thank you, Rashini. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you so much, Paula, for a wonderful share. So precious. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, okay, we will read some more and then again have some stories or discussion. Continuation of Chapter 2, Pune, 1915 to 1921. In 1915, Mehera with her mother and sister came to live in Pune, and during that year, Meher Baba, then known as Meherwan, met the remaining four perfect masters of the time: Narayan Maharaj, Tajuddin Baba, Sai Baba, and Upasni Maharaj. Upasni Maharaj, on seeing Baba, flung a stone at him, hitting Baba on the forehead where Baba Jan had kissed him in 1914, and thus began Baba's return to normal consciousness. During the following years, Baba stayed mostly in Pune. He managed a theatrical company for 2 months, worked in his father's study, worked in his father's tea and toddy shop all the time, constantly visiting Babajan and sometimes Upasni Maharaj. In 1918, Baba opened a toddy shop in Kaspa Peth in Pune city, and the same year Sai Baba dropped his body. In 1919, Baba's family moved from Pumpkin House to nearby Baba House in Pune, where Baba knocked his forehead on a stone in his small room there. This knocking of his forehead had first begun after Upasni Maharaj had flung the stone at Baba in 1915. At the toddy shop, Meherwanji now began to attract a group of spiritual seekers, some of whom later became his mandali. Throughout 1920 and 1921, Baba's frequent visits to Upasni Maharaj continued, culminating in a 6-month continuous stay at Sakori from July to December 1921. By the end of this stay, Baba had been unveiled as the avatar of the age. It was in Junagadh, when he was 40 years old, that my father had a fall from a horse, and that was to change our lives. In this fall, he hurt his ear, and he went to Bombay to the Masina hospital to consult a doctor about it. Surgery was recommended, but before having it, my father decided to visit his parents in Pune. His mother suggested that he also consult their family doctor there in Pune, and to please her, he did. This doctor told my father that the operation was so minor that he could easily do it then and there. My father believed him, and he had the operation in this doctor's house in a small, ill equipped, and dusty surgery. His parents did not inform my mother, who was in Junagadh, about the operation. The incision became septic, and my dear father suddenly passed away. My poor mother was absolutely heartbroken, and so were we. The last time we had seen my father, he had been strong and healthy, and now, suddenly, because of a careless operation, he was gone. The shock was terrible for my mother, and after this, we rarely saw my father's family. Many years later, I heard that Baba's father, Sheriarji, had helped to carry my father's body to the Tower of Silence, and that when he returned home that day, Sharyarji had said that he had never seen anyone with such a fine, strong, healthy body as my father. My mother now had to return to her family house in Pune. I was 8 years old when, at the invitation of my maternal uncle Ardeshir, we moved into his house, a very big bungalow in the vicinity of Bund Garden, where my grandparents and two maternal uncles, their wives, and children lived. Ardeshir was the eldest uncle and head of the household, and he always was very kind and generous to us. He owned a successful soft drink factory in the Sachapir Street area of Pune. Another of my mother's brothers, Colonel M.S. Irani, was a surgeon serving in a hospital in Aden in the Middle East, as the First World War had then started. He was very fond of my mother, so when my father passed away, he took leave and came quickly to Pune to comfort and console her. When he arrived, my mother clung to him and sobbed her heart out. My mother was so shocked and heartbroken by my father's passing that she took to constant prayers morning, noon, and night. She would walk alone with our spaniel down to the river, which was not far from our house. And there, near a well, she would light an oil lamp and offer flowers and pray. When she later heard of Babajan from her sister Freni Masi, she would be seated by Babajan's side every evening. Now that we were settled in Pune, we became day girls at the same school, the Convent of Jesus and Mary, where we had been boarders, and I loved to hear the nuns tell stories about Jesus and his disciples. When I was 9 years old, on the first anniversary of my father's death, my Navjot, initiating me into the Zoroastrian faith, was performed. One day, when I was 10 or 11 years old, one of my school friends named Zina came running to me at recess time when we children were playing after lunch and said, Mehra, let's go to Baba Jan. She is very great. Whatever we ask for, she will give us. You ask for something, and I'll ask for something. Come on, do let's go and see her. Yes, but what about the school bell? I asked. I thought Baba Jan was always seated under a neem tree some distance from our school, and we might be late for class. Today Baba Jan is sitting right outside. She is so near that we won't be late for class, Zena replied. So together, hand in hand, we ran out of school grounds and towards Babajan, who was seated behind the convent wall. But as we came near to her, I began to feel very shy. I said to my friend, how can I go up to Babajan? I've never thought of asking for anything. I don't have anything to ask for. You go first. But Zina replied, never mind, think hard. And when we reached Babajan, Zina knelt before her and made her request. Then it was my turn, and I still could not think of anything to ask for. But I went very shyly up to Babajan and knelt before her. She looked at me sweetly and said, what is it, my child? Still, I did not know what to ask for because I had everything. I started thinking very hard, and as I looked across the road, I saw a horse and carriage pass by. The thought came to me that I would like a horse to ride because since my father's death, my mother had kept only a carriage horse. A horse needs to be looked after, and she did not want the bother of more servants and more work. So I told Baba Jan, I would like a horse. Now, that sounds a bit childish, but at that time it did not seem childish to me. I loved horses, And Baba Jan looked at me, gave a slight, very sweet smile, and nodded her head. Then she looked up towards the sky. Yes, he will be very beautiful. You will get a horse, and all the world will see him and love him. She spoke very softly and in Urdu, and I could not hear her very well, but those words I caught. Then she patted me and told me, "Now you can go, my child." And I was glad to leave as I was feeling very, very shy. But I also felt happy because I thought that I would have a beautiful horse that many would admire when I rode it. Just then the school bell rang, so my friend and I caught hands and ran back to the school. I completely forgot that I had asked Baba Jan for a horse. Then one evening, some months after this meeting, after I had come home from school and was playing gilli danda in our compound with my cousins, my aunt said to me, "Mehra, go and see what a beautiful horse your mother has bought." I thought she was teasing me, but she repeated it. "Go to the stables and see." I ran to the stables and I was overjoyed to see there this very, very beautiful horse. I could not believe my eyes. He was so beautiful. He was snow white with not a speck of color anywhere. His nose and his skin were pink, not black. One of his eyes was blue and the other one was black. And he was very well fed and well kept. In the stable, he started to prance and shake his head and mane, and I knew he was a spirited horse. I was even happier as I'm not fond of very quiet riding horses. My mother later told me that she had been returning home in a tonga from an outing and had seen a crowd of people. She stopped, and in the middle of this crowd there was this beautiful white horse which she liked so much that she immediately bought him and had him brought home. Just 2 days after the horse arrived, I began to think, why am I not riding this horse? I loved to ride, but since my father's death, I had not had the chance. I knew that I would not be allowed to ride this white horse, as he was new and very spirited, and my elders would be afraid that I would have a fall. But my father had taught me well, and I was not at all afraid. All our saddles and bridles had been brought to Pune after my father's death and dumped in a big storeroom at my grandparents' house. So I went quietly inside, found a saddle and a bridle, and had the groom saddle the white horse. He thought I had permission to ride, but I had not. He helped me mount, and I quietly rode the horse out a back gateway so my elders would not see me. But my aunt did see me, and though she called me back, I kept riding down to a lonely sandy brittle path near Bund Garden, along with the British liked to ride. There I tried out this horse's paces, trotting and cantering, and after a long, lovely ride, I came home safely. So my elders saw that I could manage the horse, and they allowed me to ride him again. I used to give him treats of sugar, so he came to know me. A few years passed, and my mother bought as an investment a very beautiful house on Todiwala Road in Pune, which had been rented to a European couple, a Mr. and Mrs. Mandy. A little later, perhaps it was in 1919, after we had been staying in my grandparents' house for 4 years, my eldest uncle Ardeshir died. He had been very sympathetic towards my mother, but with his death, she no longer felt comfortable in her family's house. So when our tenants returned to England, we moved into number 9 Todiwala Road. I was about 12 years old. It was a very lovely place. The house was large with separate servants' quarters and stables. The garden was twice the size of Mehera's, with several hundred beautiful trees and a broad shaded drive up to the house from the road. On returning from school, we could feel the coolness of our garden as we turned into the drive. The house was at the end of Todiwala Road, a very good and quiet locality. Nearby were fields, and it was very quiet and dark at night. We had a carriage horse, the white horse, and our pet water spaniel. Our neighbors were some Europeans, the Raja of Kolhapur, and a wealthy family from Bombay, the Todiwalas, after whom the road had been named, and who later come into my story. One day while we were living at Todiwala Road, I remember riding the white horse across a low-lying field near our house towards a raised road. As we came close to the road, he started to lunge and rear. I jumped off and landed quite safely in the field. And what happened next was this. The saddle immediately slipped off the horse. The girth had broken, and had the horse not reared when he did, I would not have jumped off and could have had a very bad fall later. I managed to catch the reins, but the horse was too strong and excited for me to hold for long. Fortunately, at that moment, two servants from the nearby houses of the Raja of Kolhapur and some Europeans came running up. So I remounted him, and they very kindly led me home riding bareback. Now, this white horse was very mischievous. He had a friend, a carriage horse from next door, and my white horse would somehow get loose and visit him. Then both of them would prance and frolic around our compound and around other people's too. This would upset our neighbors, and that would upset my mother. However, because of my school work, piano lessons, piano practice, theory of music lessons, and other things I had to do, I had very little time to ride. Since I only rode the white horse a few times, my mother decided that he should be useful and learn how to draw a carriage. So our groom would tie a plank behind the horse to get him used to pulling a weight. One day, he even let me stand on this plank, and off we went across a field. It was such fun. Before reading further, I would like to show these pencil drawings by Mehera of literary heroines done when she was about 14 years old and living on Todiwala Road, Pune. Shown here are the actual size. The first one is Lady Rowena from Ivanhoe. B is Miranda playing chess. C is Rebecca. And D is Catherine the Shrew. I hope you all can see the drawings. So Mehra was a very, very beautiful artist as well, and these portraits were drawn by her then. My mother later built a second smaller house on the foundation of a broken down house in our compound. We moved there when it was finished and rented out the main bungalow. My mother also bought three small cottages: White House, Cozy Cottage, and Beehive in Mahabaleshwar, a hill station between Pune and Bombay. As a child, I knew Mahabaleshwar well and later spent much time there with Baba. My mother often took my sister and me to stay in Cozy Cottage. We now changed schools from the Convent of Jesus and Mary, which was far from our new house, to St. Helens. At school, I loved Shakespeare plays, especially The Tempest, stories of saints, the novels of writers like Dickens and Sir Walter Scott, and playing the piano. But I was never top of my class. I much preferred playing games with my friends to school work. Jai Meher Baba. This is the end of chapter 2. If anybody wishes to ask anything, read any part or line, anything that you feel, or we have some more people here. Anybody wants to share any story, personal experience with Mehra, or any story, anecdote with Baba about Mehra or the Women Mandali, please raise your hands and let's hear some people share. Or any quote of Baba. Yes, Jeff, please.
I'll read something that I have in my notebook on the front of my notebook. These are Baba's words. And Baba says to us, if you make me your real father, all differences and contentions between you and all personal problems in connection with your lives will be dissolved in the ocean of my love. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst any hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Jeff. Jai Meher Baba. Thank you. So we have Havovi Auntie also who is here. So Havovi Auntie, you had said next session I'm going to share some more stories. Yes, Rosalie.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
In my times of being with Mehera, I came 7 times in pilgrimage from the United States, and Mehera was my favorite. You know, she felt like beyond Mandali. You know, she just felt like you were just sitting there with Baba. Mehera was incredibly supportive of women, is what I wanted to say. She was, I found personally, she was very supportive of me and my art. I like performing, and I like making people laugh. And she actually told me one time on the porch with everyone there that I had been born. She asked me, first she says, she didn't ask me, she says, Rosalie, you enjoy entertaining, don't you? Just kind of out of the blue, as the expression goes. And I have to say, it went right to my heart. And I said, yes, Mehera, I love performing. And she says, you were born for that. And anyway, it was just an incident of that support. I do feel very strongly that this coming of Baba, this very powerful advent, as one of the Mandali used to say, he said it was 7-11. It was the 7th cycle of 11 cycles. And it would make me happy when I heard him say that. His name was Joseph Harb, and he was born into a Sufi family in Lebanon. But at any rate, I feel this Baba did such work with Mehera, such a strict, her life was very under Baba's total nazar, you know, I mean, he had her for a good while. She couldn't even hear a man's name, or she couldn't read. He didn't allow her to read. But now Mehera is very bright, a very bright person. And anyway, she was so dedicated to doing everything that Baba said, including, I know one time Baba told her to only eat half a banana. And then on after Baba passed, she would only eat half a banana. So I think of her when I'm eating bananas, I like to eat a half. But anyway, I wanted to say that. And I also wanted to say that he said that Mehera shared his suffering when he had his first accident in the United States. And I feel that was also so much his work with women for the upliftment of women. So I just know it's going to bring this incredible change as far as how women are seen in the world, how they're treated, and actually how men are treated differently as a result. But at any rate, I just wanted to share that, and my feelings very strong of the strong work he did in Mehera, with Mehera. And anyway, that's what I wanted to share. Jai Baba.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Rosalie. Gosh, all of these shares are so precious, and so fortunate are we to hear it from all of you. And getting this opportunity to listen to all of you is no words can actually express how precious it is. Yes, Paula. Thank you, Rosalie. Jai Baba.
Yes, Jai Baba.
Yeah,
Paula,
that
you
blew
can
my,
unmute.
yeah. Oh, am I not? Yeah, I'm still. Am I
I saw.
unmuted?
Yes, you're unmuted.
Oh, okay. I know. I heard. It blew my mind when Baba said. I heard that Baba said that Mehera took half of the suffering of that accident, and that accident was so huge for us. I mean, we can't even imagine what Baba was doing and what Mehera did. I mean, what happened to, even physically, just what happened to her. And that she should, the doctor thought that she would not survive. So, but women did survive, didn't we? Who knows? We don't know. My friend Jill was at one of the, I think it might have been the very last tea that Mehera was present for. And at the end of the tea, Mehera always goes up to Baba's picture. But Mehera said, she said, this is close to the exact quote, because I wasn't there, but Jill was. And she said, Mehera said, well, Baba's a father, and I guess that makes me the mother. And I really felt that. It felt like in my heart, it felt like an announcement that she's my mother, that she's our mother, and that she's like beyond whatever that word ever has meant. She's so much more. I mean, we just don't even know, but we do have a mother in her, and we have, it's like Baba in his female aspects, how he pays attention to us as the mother, as the father and the mother. And it's just, and there were stories that were happening around the time that Mehera went to Baba. And it was how she also was saying that she was Mary, that there was a, I don't know, people have probably heard this story, but there was a woman. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was an American Indian woman who had a really difficult life, and she was raised Catholic, and she was abused and really had a hard time. And what she would do, it would get better whenever she prayed to Mary. Well, she became a Baba lover, and Mehera was taking her around the garden at Meherazad and showing her her garden. And all of a sudden, Mehera turned and looked her in the eyes, and she said, "When you prayed to Mary, it was I who heard you." So those kinds of stories were happening, a lot of them, around the time that Mehera went to Baba. It was like an announcement, this is who I am, and this is who I am for you. Anyway, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you so much. Thanks for that. Yes, we can't even imagine, you know, and I think for me, I feel that just the way Baba has said that it takes those 100 years of manifestation for the entire world or universe to kind of know the avatar of the age, and so will her importance come to light more and more as well as we come closer. And yes, as Rosalie said about, I feel all through while Baba was in his, you know, body, and through with Mehra, the entire rise of the divine feminine, of, you know, the way women are looked, the way women are achieving, the way women are, you know, moving forward, I think has a strong role play in you know, Mehra being the counterpart for this precious and important advent. And I I personally feel you know, her being hand in glove quite a lot of times with Baba's doings, and can see that, you know, it's not just uh, for any sakes that Baba would have said that she is the very breath he can't live without. Yes, Rosalie.
That reminds me of, you know, Baba said, "There is my very breath. Without, I cannot live." And also there was a quote, and I can't give a source except a Baba lover named Adele Walken that met him in 1952, very dedicated to Baba, used to quote that Baba had said this time he was both mother and father. So um, I, when I was remembering that right now, and I thought, she was so much Baba when I was around her. You know, it was like I was with Baba. If I made her laugh, I was making Baba laugh. If you didn't want to just please her, I remember this incident happened where Mehera had rolled some of Baba's young hair. She put him in a little roll so they could be in a container that someone wanted Baba's hair in this little silver container. And I was so excited. I think it was my first time in India, and I got very excited, and I thought, oh, I want that too. And so I went to Mehera and I said, "Oh, Mehera, will you do that for me?" And she she did not say yes. She went just it just seemed like she was displeased, and she says, "Do you think I have nothing else to do with my time?" Blah, 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 you know, and I was like, I was like just shocked, and you know, she kind of went on and on about it, and then I would say I heard Baba's voice, because it was at that point in time I was so shocked, and it says, "Don't make Mehera unhappy," because I was about to burst up crying, you know, and and I could see it was like I was looking out in the ocean, a porthole in the ocean was there, like, you know. And then when those words came, it went down. And I didn't, you know, but I do, my feeling is that the counterpart, the chosen one, is always, it's the avatar, it's the female part of the avatar. And I see it even more clear in this Advent. They always, and even the fact is, and they say Mehera Meher, and they said Sita Ram, you know, it's like God is just that whole. He's just, you know, and it can't be separated without my breath, you know. Anyway, I wanted to say that, but Mehera, of anyone that I've ever met, I had the strongest reaction because it was like meeting Baba. It was meeting Baba, you know, yeah. And I actually, when I first saw her, it was in the Samadhi. There were just a few of us, and she was so inward. I didn't know how she was walking around because she was so, I just have to call it inward. She was so with Baba that, and she would only come to the Samadhi after Baba. She would come twice a month for Arti. I don't remember anyone else coming with her. And, you know, she was never alone. So I know they were there, but, you know, it was the first time I saw her. So I was so taken aback. And then the next day I met her on the porch, and it was more, you know, it was like meeting someone in their home. But I felt Baba wanted me to know who she was, you know, her role, that not separate, before I met her more casual, you know. But anyway, very, very important. Yeah, to meet her. And
Which
before
year did you,
yeah,
which year did you get to know of Baba, Rosalie? Just wanted to ask.
I heard about Baba in a roommate of mine back on, then I had to shut my computer down and then come back in. Wow, but anyway, I thought, okay, Baba just shut me up. That was
Baba.
funny.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, what happened?
Anyway, I heard about Baba in 71, but I think a lot of us heard about him in a previous life. I think I did. I feel I did. And, you know, I just feel I did. And when I was around Mehera, because Mehera was around him, young, incredibly beautiful Baba, that young years, I really relate to that young time, you know. I relate to them all, but I think I used to wonder why I related so much. And I thought, well, it's because he's so incredibly beautiful. And then when I started hearing of, but we could be the banana wallas, you know, we were given a banana, and, you know, and I think a lot of us, you know, had that contact because the picture I saw of him as Rosalie in 1971, 70 was the Don't Worry, Be Happy picture. It was not young
Wow.
Baba. So he's recognizable no matter what age. It's, you know, it's the avatar. But at any rate,
Lovely.
that was his calling card. And I haven't stopped worrying, but at least I knew who to take my worries to. To Baba.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Rosalie.
Uh,
Yes. Well, yes, we have Paula who wants to share some more. Yes, Paula. How are we, Auntie? You also be ready to share something.
Yeah, we're calling on you. Let's see. Am I unmuted? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me like in Mira went to Baba what in 1989. And around that time, this was really interesting because I remember that I was Jill Davis and I would have these discussions about Mira because we love her so much. And it was like we didn't really know that she was her. It's like it seems like consciousness has changed since she went to Baba, and it's like
Oh,
opened up to where we are more aware of who she really is, and we weren't. And it was like at the time, it's like I don't know, it's just like something that's opened up in our consciousness, and now people talk about it all the time, how she and Baba were always together. She's always been with Baba. She always comes with Baba.
yeah.
It's the same. But we didn't really know that, but we would speculate about it. And it's like, wait a minute, is this the way it really is, you know? And so it just seems like there's been an evolution and an expansion of consciousness about Mara and who she really is. Anyway, that's what I just kind of have observed over all these years. Jay Bob, it's so weird not to have a conversation where everybody can talk and say, yeah. Or what?
Yeah.
Jay Bob.
I
But this is
agree.
better.
I agree, Paula.
I know,
I
but this is
agree.
better.
Yeah.
It's
And I
better
was
than
there with
nothing.
Jill too.
Yeah, Jill's a
How,
character. She's one
Yeah.
of the funniest people. She is. She's one of the funniest people I've ever known. She's a close friend of mine. She's so funny. And she made Mara laugh. There's a film where she was, they did a play and she was Dulcinea. So when
Oh, yes.
Mara she could not hold it together. She was laughing so hard. And Jill was mortified. She thought that she did just a horrible job or something. And then she wouldn't go out to meet Mara afterwards. And then it was like, no, Jill, go see Mara. She's calling for you. And then she realized that Mara really, really liked it. It just really tickled her. She was laughing so hard. And you can see it in the film of that play. Anyway, so that was funny. Jay Baba.
That
Jai
was
Baba.
that was a funny play. I was in that with Paula. I was in that play. I played an Indian road worker
Oh,
called Baisabai. And
that's
and
nice.
the workers at the Pilgrim Center put my sari on. It was a 9-meter sari. Yeah, and they loved that I played because I was squatting on the ground and I had a gamela on my head. And yeah,
I remember you in that play. I remember
yeah,
seeing you.
you were.
It
Were
was
you
funny.
there, Paula? Were you in India or you saw it on film?
No, I saw it on film.
Oh, it
It
was
was
funny.
great. It was very funny. You were very funny.
Mara,
How Auntie, are you there?
it was a privilege to make Mara laugh. And I used to think of that because I didn't meet Mara till 1976, September. But you know, she missed Baba physically so much that she was at the point of tears all the time. So if you could make her laugh, it was such a joy, you know, just wow, you felt like you won the jackpot, you know.
What a gift. What a
Yeah,
gift
yeah, yeah.
to do that. Huh.
So beautiful. Was there? I've heard this story that Mehra and Mani both had explicitly kind of instructed that nobody should prefix the word ma or my or suffix the word mother in Hindi, like Mehra mai or Mehra ma to them. Is if any of you have any idea on that? because I've heard it from quite a few Baba lovers, but I've not really read it anywhere. So was just asking if anyone.
Maybe people that were Westerners or people that were helping would have a mind of that. I never heard that. I never called her Merima. It was always Mera. Yeah. I didn't. I thought that's more with people in India would call her Meramai.
Yes. No, generally that Mani had mentioned or something that she and her and Mehra not to put the
Did you
suffix
that?
of my or ma,
Ah,
with
okay.
it. But I
Yeah.
haven't really read in print anywhere. So just thought to ask if that was true. If Havovi Auntie Paula, you, if anyone knows about it.
Yeah.
Never heard of that. Never.
Late. Hello.
Haji Havovi Auntie. Tamaru
Yeah.
camera bancha.
Maraja Manati. Okay, start video. Is that it?
Yes, correct. Perfect.
Okay. You dressed up if I knew I was going to be on screen. Yeah, Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai
Uh,
Baba.
we end the session. It's almost 11, no? It's almost 11. It goes on till 11,
Yes, we
right?
have time till 11:30. Don't worry.
Okay. Extension, because I
No, we
joined it.
have time till 11:30. We keep it till 11 o'clock so that we have half an hour buffer in case stories come up or anything.
Acha, acha. Okay, fine. I remember you, Rosalie, very well. Did you ever wear a clown's outfit to
Oh yeah.
Mehera? I remember that very well. Anyway, if I have time, then I'd like to tell you this story. It's a longer one. But before
Sure.
that, because I need my reading glasses all the time. And they call these glasses in India, or I don't know, all over the world probably, they call it Chalisya Chasma. Means when you turn 40, you get glasses, reading glasses. So when I turned 44, I went to get my eyes tested. And they said, oh, you are going to get Chalisya Chasma, means 40, for the 40 age. I said, no, I'm 44. And then Mehera, on that subject, Mehera would always say, you're so much younger than me and you need glasses. See, I can read without my glasses. Until the very end, she never wore glasses, you know. Joyce, Chasma, you need glasses at your age? I can read without them. So very sweetly and I'd smile and all that. All right. Now, this is a longer one. This was in 1982, December. They got married in 82. You know, this would be maybe 83 December. My children, my daughter and son-in-law and the children weren't even born then. Anyway, so they were in the States. And so I had to give a parcel to Mehera on behalf of them. You know, Mehera could never smell, you know, after the accident. And this was sunlight. She only liked the sunlight soap. So I got Dr. Roy Hayes. They were available in Australia. So in a very beautiful packet, he sent it to me and I wanted to gift it to Mehera. This was on my daughter's wedding anniversary, 27th December. And so I go up to her at the afternoons, before the afternoon session, before lunch. And I said, Mehera, I have something for you. So then I gave her the parcel. It's very beautifully wrapped in green floral paper and all that. And she said, what is it? So I said, shall I, because I didn't have the heart to tear it. So she said, shall I open it? She said, please open it. And I opened it and she took that box and she went like this. And she said, who told you? I'm sure Gave told you. Gave must have told you that I use sunlight. I said, no, I didn't say that. Arnavas had told. It was a whole long story before that, how Mehruk and all were supposed to give it. And finally I landed up giving it. And then she said, I said, today is Mehruk Sarosh's anniversary and all. So she said, join us for lunch. Now, every Tuesday, there was a custom that every Tuesday, one of the resident Mandali would have lunch with Mehera. So she said, come for lunch. So this was 27 December, soon after 22nd, her birthday. So I go for lunch, and lovely lunch as always on her lovely dining table, and ate to my heart's content.
And then the lady, I'm not going to name her, but she, the resident lady, she nudges me once, with her legs under the table, saying, now quit, let's go. So how can you just get up from in Mehera's presence and go? So I said, how do I get up and go? So I moved my plate back and forth, back and forth. She noticed it. She said, Havovi, are you getting late? Is there someone waiting for you on the other side? You have to go? I said, no, Mehera. After that, any amount of kicking wouldn't make me. And I sat. And it was always a practice that after lunch, Mehera had to take rest. And 4 o'clock, she'd be up again. So I sat naturally, and then she talked about beautiful things of days of yore, of going to Mount Mary and going for holidays to Panchgani, and about the inquisitive hotel owner's son who wanted to know. That time TV had just come in. Anyway, lots of little stories like that, and where all they went with Baba, and it went on. And Meru comes, and Meru says, Mehera, it's time to sleep. No, she kept on going. And then Gaver comes, and then it's almost 4. And then she gets up with a little, she would not apron, but like a little napkin. She tuck it in her little petticoat and skirt, and she goes to the little, you all have been to Mehera's dining room, then near the basin, and she tells me, Havovi, I'm sorry to have, kept you so late and, spoken so many things. But who knows when I'll ever be able to tell you all these things again. And I was absolutely to bits. I mean, where was I going anyway? I said, oh, Mehera, it's been such a pleasure. She said, now you may go. And by that time, it was 4 o'clock almost, And then I rush out, and I don't know how many of you heard of Rustam Palati. He was my son's batchmate in DM18 college and all. And I go running out. There's a Rustam, I was inside, and she told me all these lovely stories. And she said that I was so thrilled to pieces. And another thing, main thing is that on that day, I'm talking about the lunch. So first we had lunch, and there was fried fish, which is a rarity. Usually they were very vegetarian lunch anyway. So there's fried fish. In our Parsi custom, fish, any sweet meats like soji is rava. Rava is like a semolina pudding, rava we call it. That all these are happy things. And dandal, rice and white dal. You know what Baba like? Rice with white dal, yellow dal. All right. So there was dandal, and there was fried fish. And then Katie comes bubbling in, with rava from Mehera's birthday time, 22nd. This is 27. And she says, Mehera, I rava che tamara birthday is rava. So then I said, oh, Mehera, now rava to complete the whole thing. Dandar and fish, all these auspicious signs. And now rava also. So she told me, oh, you like then a sagan. We call it sagan in Gujarati, S-A-G-A-N. So she says, oh, then a sagan game, you like it, no? So Baba is providing you with sagan. So he finally landed up eating rava also, so on that day. So it was like such a perfect day. So I thought I'd share it with you guys.
Yeah. But
Wow.
I love how I felt at times the people that were helping her.
And yeah,
I was very, they had good intentions, but with Mehera was the queen, it's like Mehera could say what was going on. So I'm glad you didn't listen to the nudge under the table, Yeah. So yeah, it was, it's an important thing. You don't let anyone come between you and God. That's how I feel in that situation. You don't, and I remember you met Phyllis Frederick Havovi, you met her.
yeah.
I remember her, and she was very peaceable, but she said sometimes she would elbow to get closer to Baba. So I thought, it's when something's that important, you listen inwardly. Yeah. I love your stories. I love it. Yeah. With Mehera, you didn't want it to end because it was like with Baba. Yeah.
And Mehera.
True, sir.
Uh,
Thank you, Bhabovi auntie. That was so beautiful.
Yeah.
I know this is hardly the thing, but I just read the name Paula Roper, and she spoke. I have a long time association with her. She may not remember, but I'd like to see her face if it's all right.
Paula, public demand. You have to put on your camera.
Yeah, please, Paula. I, this is
I
something
look
to do.
awful right now.
Oh, you don't. You look so
You
pretty.
remember me, Paula?
Bovi,
Yeah.
I was gonna tell you, I remember you. I remember your I remember your beautiful, beautiful singing at Baba Samadhi. I loved your singing
I
so
still
much.
I still have your little note. You know something? It's a very funny. Am I allowed to? This is off the record, but I remember you wrote me a very sweet little note saying, Habovi, your voice woos the beloved. It's so enchanting. You wrote something. And she said, I'd love to get a recording. And I cherish that note. I've got little compliments here, there, and everywhere. But this is so that it woos the beloved. I love the words, woos the beloved. You know, I'd love to woo Baba. And then she's so enchanting and all that. And then I did try to send you a tape. So right in this Pune home, it's a Baba home. My sister-in-law's late Freni's home. So I go up to the bedroom and I said, today I'm going to do the recording. So I chose one, and no music, because there's music. So I said, without the music. So I said, Paula, I'm finally going to be singing and sending you the tape. And I don't know which song I did, but I did a song. And then I said, now let me hear it again. And guess what? I hadn't put on the on button. So that was my last attempt to send you. I was so excited that now I said, I'm sorry it's without the music, but whatever it is, please, I'm going to be sending it to you. And when I opened, there was nothing because I'd forgotten to put on button. But that was my last attempt. So I always wanted to know what I didn't remember your face. So now, Paula, I'm sorry that this is off the record and on this forum, but I'm so happy to see you, Jai Baba.
Oh, I'm so happy to
So
see you.
beautiful.
And your voice does just does woo Baba and wooed Baba in my heart too. I loved your
Jai
voice.
Baba. Baba bless you.
Great Baba.
Finally, I've seen you. I'm so happy in my lifetime, this lifetime. Jai Baba. Thank you, Roshni.
Habobi auntie, I was asking before you came in that
Sorry,
from
I
a
was
lot of
late.
Baba, from a lot of Baba lovers, I've heard that Mani or Mehera, I don't know, had kind of given instructions not to join or suffix the
I
word
hope
my or ma with their name. Is that so? Because I've never read it anywhere in print.
look,
But
this,
lots
yeah,
have said
Roshni.
that money has said, and so I don't know. That's why I wanted to clarify.
Okay, Roshni. Now, we always called her Mehera and Mani. We were so, we were very intimate and always, I've never heard, I don't know, must be the oldies might have said Mehera Mai or Mani Mai or something like that. You know, it's like a term that you use for someone. It's senior to you, you know. So, if I had never ever called them Mehera, besides Mehera and Mani, and I never heard any of my group or our group and age generation to say that. But of late, I hear this controversy that you should not say Mera Mai or Mani Mai, I don't know, but Mera Mai. So of late, this conversation has come up, you know. But before that, we never thought of calling anything but Mera Mani, you know.
Mhm.
So,
Yes,
but
yes.
very many people have
That's why I
said,
wanted to clarify with
but why?
you
I don't know.
elders who
I've
have
never
been
been
there.
there. Yeah, so now of late this controversy or whatever you call it that you must start, but no specific instruction that you shouldn't, you know. Usually for
That's why
somebody
because
elderly, you say my, you know, like that. Or my is like a mother, it's an endearing term. But with Mera and Mani, and would you know that these all the Mandali, but they were called girls? When sometimes somebody will say girl to me, my husband says, girl, you're a grandmother. So girls is something They were called girls. Meher Baba's Mandali, Lady Mandali was so they were called girls after girls. So I mean, not mice, and so I cannot throw any light on that. But I know that this has come off late. That, and neither have I read, and neither have I heard, or neither do I want to call them
Yes.
anything but Mehra and Mani.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. And that's for me also. If
No
anything,
clarification.
is not I've not I've not read all Baba's books for sure, but I know that if it is in print, so if anything that I hear and I have this feeling that no, I don't know whether this is written, I first go to the internet and type out the whole sentence. Money
They're
said, do not use.
young at heart and young in Baba's love.
Then I
That's what.
tried to ask many others also, but nobody recounted that Money had given these implicit instructions, because the story is going around that Money had implicitly said. So I wanted to just clarify that. Thank you.
Stories going around, because I've never ever even thought of this as a controversy or whatever, because
Yeah. Not much of a controversy. It
Baba's
comes down
Mandali.
usually to new Baba lovers as instruction. Listen, you cannot say because Money has said this. So please do not use this word. Only say Mehra, only say Money. So it was like, oh, okay, fine. Like, I don't know.
It's what people do. They do it out of reverence, that somebody is so
Yes,
important. I'm sure they
yes.
don't, but they never have. At least we have none of us ever called a Mehra my or Money my. So that talk didn't, surface at all.
Thank you. Thank you
I'm
so
sure.
much.
Hardly,
Okay.
we are the very few of my generation, So I don't know.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for clarifying this. I'm sure this is going to help
I
when we
could,
put
because
up
I don't
the
know. I
session
wouldn't be
on
able.
YouTube. And
Mhm.
many others also, at least in our toddler generation of Baba lovers, have this question.
My mummy would always say, "Mera mainu varas chhe."
Oh,
Like my mother would be invited for Mera's birthday. She would say, "Mera mainu varas chhe," from a reverence point of view, that
hmm.
nobody's story or topic has never surfaced. Some of the older generation might have, much older than them also.
Hmm. Okay.
I don't know.
Thank you
Chalo.
so much. So, if there's nothing else, then we will play Baba's Dhun and close the session.
I'm
And
sorry
thank
if
you
I
so
took a
much.
long time by
Ari, no, not at all. Please.
no
In
time
fact, we
for.
want more sharings. We want more people to join in. We've just started, so I'm sure still many don't know about the session. So, slowly, as we go along the Fridays, I know more the merrier will join in, so that we can listen to more wonderful stories about Mehra and the Women Mandali.
Lovely.
It lives up to the title, The Fragrance. It does. Huh.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It is, and I feel that I many a times when I take like in my daily prayers also I say Jai Baba, Jai Mehra Meher, and several times I've experienced like a whiff of something. I don't know what it is. I don't have any flowers. I don't have nothing around me in the room, kind of a thing. But I have, and therefore when I was just praying to Baba for when I was nudged to start these sessions, the first thing that came up was fragrance of his love, kind of. So therefore, that
But
each
I
of them
sometimes
carried.
say, Mera Radha. Sometimes I say, Mer Baba ki jai, Mera Radha.
Mm,
I say
So
that
sweet.
sometimes.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
sweet.
Oh, no. Okay. So we were walking up the hill for at MRT for Artie, but it was really crowded. And Meryl was so funny. She's walking up the hill and she's talking to all the vendors and all the people and stuff. And Monty kept saying, Meryl, we've got to get going, It was funny. But there's a lot of people, and women would surround her, and it was a huge crowd. And my son was 11, so he could be with Mara, and he was invited to tea. But as we were walking up the hill, I realized there was one person in front of me, and then there was Mara. And I thought, who is that person? Because I wanted to be right behind Mara. Well, it was Mani. And once I realized it's Mani, it was like, oh. So, but what I consciously did was I put my feet in their footsteps walking up the hill. And I told Baba, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to be. And then it shifted and my son was next to me and he was behind Mani. And I said, be careful of her feet, you know, because there was this pushing and pulling. But that was a really, really special time. And that son recently has gone to Baba this last year. So, yeah, I know Mehera he's one, you know, a very few in the world men who were able to be in her presence that way and be touched by her. So, but she's always had her eyes on him. I know she always had. So, Jai Baba, yeah, so
Jai
precious.
Baba.
So he walked in their footsteps too. Yeah.
How
Mm.
fortunate.
Myrtle Beach, Paula? Are you in
What?
Myrtle Beach State?
No, I'm in Washington State. I'm on Camino Island in Washington State.
Yeah, state, not Washington, D.C. The other one. Yeah.
Right.
Seattle.
The other one. Yeah, I'm north of Seattle. I'm about 65 miles north of Seattle on an island.
Right now, my granddaughter, who is a singer, and she's absolutely professional. And so she is just now being a part of the catering department in this. Sahavas are going to be next week, the Sahavas for the children. So she,
Oh,
4 of them are doing bakery and she's staying at Dilruba. She just sent me some pictures.
that's wonderful. I've heard
And
her,
so
Havovi, and I knew she was your granddaughter. And she just, yeah, she takes
her
after her
name,
grandmother.
Well,
I've heard her on a video or something. Yeah. And
was it?
I knew, I knew she was your granddaughter and I knew she took after her grandmother.
And yeah, I always thought that each of them, Mani, all the Mandali, were purely there spreading the fragrance of Baba's love and eternal fragrance that can be
Yeah.
carried and, have its own ripple effect every time that we talk of their stories of love and surrender. And I felt that even while reading the book, Lives of Love. So, yes.
Mm.
Thank you so much. I will play the dhun and then we will end the session.
Okay.
Meher Baba, 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 Baba, Meher 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 Baba.
We can all say 3 times, unmute and say Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. And once we will say Jai Mehera Meher.
Jai Meher. Jai Baba. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank